The world number one does world number one things. It was game, set and match Medvedev. He defeats Taylor Fritz in a peculiar 2 sets. I say that because the first set was a real steal by Medvedev, but we will get into all of that and break down the reasons which led Medvedev to the victory. My name's Henry Tui, welcome to Post-Match Breakdowns, and subscribe if you love tennis. I just hit 100 subscribers and I'm working really hard to keep growing the channel. But let's get into this match and start off with the serve-return dynamic. And heading into this match, there was a big question between the quality of Fritz's serve against the quality of Medvedev's return. Daniil stands very, very far back, which exposes him to the serve and volley and creates more angle for the server, whereas Fritz steps in and on the return takes time away from his opponents by taking the ball very, very early. But both are very good servers and returners, and I bet it would be a really even contest with tie breaks and very, very few chances for each. But Fritz really impressed me by dominating the serve-return dynamic in the first set. Medvedev was off his game, as he was for the entire match, but Fritz really took advantage in the first set. His serve was firing, his numbers were fantastic, and it just seems so many forehand returns were at the feet of Medvedev, setting up the points so well. But once that ball was in play in the rallies, who would dominate there? So now let's look at Fritz's first set aggression. Because the early stages of this match were fully dominated by Fritz. He was highly aggressive and just found incredible depth and precision on his ground strokes, being able to hurt Medvedev off both wings with his depth, consistently pushing Medvedev deep and out of the court. And Fritz's game plan was a very solid one. He wanted to break down Medvedev's forehand using his own cross-court forehand or backhand down the line. And for early portions of this match, he really did this with great efficiency, as Medvedev's forehands kept landing short if he was making them at all. His forehand was really struggling in the first set, way too many unforced errors, and really allowed Fritz to step in and dictate play, which is exactly what he wanted to do. So for early portions, it was fully on Fritz's strings. He was highly comfortable behind his first serve and created many chances in Daniil's games. And by 6 games all, he created 6 break points on Medvedev's serve. 3 of them were set points, but he hadn't managed to convert any of them, but hadn't faced any break points himself. And to kind of highlight Medvedev's kind of forehand weakness, by 6 games all, he had 4 forehand winners to 9 forehand unforced errors, which wasn't great. And generally just very shaky, nowhere near his best level. He hit 2 double faults in the 5-6 game, giving Fritz another break point, just so many knocks at the door, but the door never opened. And once again, by 6 games all, Medvedev had 9 receiving points and Fritz had 20. So Fritz was handedly winning the serve-return dynamic. And Fritz was by far the better player in every aspect, and Medvedev was barely hanging on. But his mental strength was very admirable. Despite all Fritz's chances, it was on serve and he got it to a tiebreak. And heading into this tiebreak, tennis did what tennis does. All the momentum was with Fritz. He had a great game plan and execution. Obviously, his execution wasn't great on break points. He was 0 of 6 in this match. But still, he was doing the right things. And he had a brilliant record in tiebreaks this season. And Medvedev took the tiebreak. So all the momentum and the entire match looking like it was Fritz's, Medvedev took it, and it wasn't even close. He took it 7 points to 1. And Medvedev played his absolute best tennis when it mattered most. He didn't make an unforced error the entire breaker, and played his most front foot aggressive tennis of the entire match, in fact. And I think that there was maybe like a hangover effect for Fritz, so many set points / break points and chances on Medvedev's serves that he couldn't capitalise on. And perhaps he was just frustrated, just that lapse in concentration that Medvedev was allowed to capitalise on. And this kind of emotional letdown really continued on into the second set. Because Medvedev, from not being able to create a break point on Fritz's serve in the entire first set, conjured up 3 break points in Fritz's first service game. And he took the third in a total masterclass of athleticism and movement. It will certainly be in the highlight reels, and I would love to watch that point again. And that firmly took the wind out of Fritz's sails. And Medvedev was carrying all the momentum, and he surged to a 3-love lead. And in those big moments, it just seemed that Medvedev showed up and Fritz shrank away. Medvedev's toughness and grit to come through those high pressure moments, raising his level exactly when he needed to, was the exact sign of a good world number one. And that early break was all Medvedev needed, as he eventually served out at 6-3 in the second. So overall, it's a brilliant match between these two, but Fritz just couldn't convert when it mattered most, and Medvedev could. That first set steal from Medvedev gave him all the momentum he needed heading into the second set, and from then on, it never looked like Fritz really had a chance. He never played as good as he did in the first set, because he played incredibly in the first set. I'd like to make that very, very clear. His game plan was excellent, and his execution was really, really good, except on those break points, which is so unfortunate, because he did 95% of everything right, but that 5% is where it matters most, where he didn't or couldn't play his best. And at the net, it was quite funny actually. Medvedev said, sorry about the first set, you deserved it, which was absolutely true. But Fritz just couldn't put those moments that he lost behind him. Now Medvedev leads the head-to-head 1-0, and it's actually the first time they've played, which I found quite surprising. They're same generation, very similar age, but anyway. And he now moves into the semi-finals, where he either plays the big serving American, John Isner, or his longtime rival, Stefanos Tsitsipas. Now Medvedev has positive head-to-heads against both. He's 2-0 against Isner and 7-2 against Tsitsipas. Medvedev has always played very, very well against big servers, and Steph hasn't beaten Medvedev on a hard court in over 3 years, I think since the Nito ATP finals in 2019. And I know head-to-heads aren't everything, but I do definitely fancy him against either player, especially if he plays as clinically as he did in the second set. But I still feel like he could raise his level heading into this tournament, but it finally looks like the Medvedev that we know and love is back. But that wraps up my analysis. A lot of work goes into these videos, so subscribing would mean the world. And thanks for watching, guys, and have a great one.